Welcome to Nordic Talks, Japan. Nordic Talks Japan is a series of events between the Nordic countries and Japan where we discuss how can we act to inspire and inspire to act in tackling the sustainable development goals set by the United Nations. Nordic Talks Japan is a collaboration between the 5 Nordic embassies in Japan, the Finnish Institute, Nordic Innovation House, as well as our local partners. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to say a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Today's event is a hybrid event. We have audience here at our partner venue at Tokyo Institute of Technology, as well as many of you joining us online. Thank you for tuning in. Today's discussions will be held in English. If you wish to follow the interpretation available, you need to log in to our Zoom event, and from the toolbar you can select the language that you wish to follow. The program will last for about 90 minutes. We will have opening and closing remarks from Nordic embassies, and in between a fascinating discussion on the topic of smart cities in our aging societies. Without any further ado, once again, thank you very much for joining us. And for opening remarks from the Embassy of Norway to Japan, Minister Counsellor Line Aune.
Dear audience, panelist, and moderator of this debate, Professor Nakatani. Welcome to this panel discussion on smart cities in aging societies. This is a topic that we've discussed for quite some time and several decades already, but now it starts revolving about the green transitions and new technologies, especially artificial intelligence, and this gives a new dimension to this debate. The current demographic shift in the world, in our countries, affects the distribution of resources in our societies. Children, youth, and elderly receive benefits, and during the working age, we contribute through taxes. So public finances are influenced by the change in the structure of our population. Expenses for healthcare, services, and pension, while the tax basis decreases. And how should our societies, our cities, and our services of the future be designed to meet these challenges that we see currently? This is the problem that decision makers and professors and thinkers around the world grapple with. So we look forward to hearing the debate today where some of these questions will be addressed. We would like to thank the Tokyo Institute of Technology for their collaboration and for hosting us here today. We would also like to thank especially Professor Nakatani, who has taken up the challenge of moderating today, and our panelists here today, Professor Hiyama from Japan, panelist Kirsi Kotainen from Finland, and finally Sven Haakon Kristensen from Norway. We look forward to hearing your thoughts and ideas here today. So thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for introduction. So my name is Momoko Nakatani from Tokyo Institute of Technology, and I am engaged in research aimed at enhancing the well-being of various individuals, including the elderly. So the focus of my work involves going to diverse fields where people live and engage in activities, and employing action research to address challenges faced by individuals. So I may not be the expert in this, specifically in smart cities or in elderly, but I directly listen to the voices of hundreds of users, including elderly. So this is because my expertise lies in the field of living labs, where in many cases the focus on elderly users. So I've been involved in co-creating technologies and services at improving well-being with users address social issues, including aging-related concerns. So I look forward to discussing broader perspective today and about the smart cities. So yeah, so I'm very happy to be here. So Now, today's topics is smart cities in aging societies. And I think that the smart cities concept encompasses two key aspects: smart city and aging societies. So in my understanding, a smart city means a sustainable and attractive urban or regional area which emphasizes on enhancing people's well-being through the use of technologies and digital solutions while fostering collaboration and co-creation. So, however, the concept is so broad and the perspectives of the smart cities may differ between the Nordic countries and Japan. So, so we want to discuss about that topic, and also regarding the aging society, both in Nordic region and Japan, we face the challenges of an aging population, and according to the statistic, a total the birth rate around 2.1 live birth per woman is considered as the replacement level in developed country. However, according to the statistics from Europe, the total birth rate in the EU was 1.53 live births per woman in 2021, and in Japan, birth rate fell to 1.26 in 2022, lowest in 17 years. So, and at the same time, life expectancy among our countries are increasing. So, and so we have to think of things from the perspective of older individuals. So, how does the current society appear? From the perspective of the individuals, and how we achieve a happy aging society where younger generations aspire to live longer. And while digital technology enhances our daily life as the number of the products and information increases, we are faced with a need to make constant choices. Making these decisions can be particularly challenging. And I think that there is a need for considerations on the usability of digital devices, for the elderly policies to enhance digital literacy, and support to navigate vast information and access relevant content. And additionally, the issues of isolation and loneliness prompt us to question the future design of communities and what kind of social interactions would improve well-being of older individuals for whom going out becomes challenging. So these are important aspects to address in shaping the future of our community. And in the theme of smart aging and society, considering how to design the overall social issues, social structure and urban environment requires both a detailed examination of individual perspectives and a holistic view of the society, social mechanism. So maybe I talked too much, so I would like to introduce, I would want to ask you to introduce your special guest here. So, I want to first, please have a brief self-introduction from each of you. And as the initial topic, please share your thoughts on the aging society and what are the issues related to aging, and what challenges need to be addressed, and currently, how are you approaching the challenges, and what is your stance? So, please.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Sven Kristensen. I work for a company called Laerdal Medical. It's a Norwegian healthcare education company, and we have a mission called Helping Save Life. So when you ask what is the issue of people living longer, I think it's a good situation. So I think first we should all recognize that we have achieved such a state that many people can live longer. And that's something we should be very proud of. Yet that poses some challenges and some topics. And maybe we can categorize them in two, at least from my perspective. When you look at the needs for care for elderly people, One is quality of care, another one is capacity. If I start with capacity, it's quite obvious because you have, you mentioned it, aging population, and you don't have children born, so there is, more elderly compared to the rest of the population. And in Japan and most countries, there is lack of healthcare professionals. I checked the data in Norway, and it's about 13,000. It doesn't seem much, but the population of Norway is 6-7 million people. In Japan, it's estimated to be about 1 million healthcare professionals lacking in Japan. And it doesn't help if you create more places for nurses and doctors to study when you don't have students and you don't have faculty. So that's the very, very important thing. So the whole education and training needs to change. So that's the capacity point. And then it's the quality. So how do you make sure you have good quality of care for increasing elderly population? You cannot, as in the old times, have everyone come to the hospital. They need to be at home. And I would like for myself to stay as long as I can at home when I get old. How do we then arrange the society? How do we, arrange that people coming home to you, the family around you, how can they be prepared to look after you? And this, I think, is maybe two of the challenges. So you can talk about the care receivers, the elderly themselves, and then the caregivers, meaning either the family or friends, relatives, or even the professional who need to take care. And I'm a technology optimist, so I think technology can help us a lot with that. So I think we will come back to that during the discussion. But this is a hot topic for us when we try to educate healthcare professionals in Norway, in Japan, and across the world in Laerdal. And that's why I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Hiyama-sensei, please.
Thank you. My name is Atsushi Hiyama. I'm working as a professor at the Hitotsubashi University, especially in the graduate school of social data science. It's a brand new graduate school in Hitotsubashi University, just started last April. And now I'm working my research mainly focused on the genome technology field. Especially applying virtual reality and also the human-computer interaction technique to help daily life of elderly people. So one good thing to make use of the virtual reality is the fun aspect of experiencing such technique. So previously, conventionally, the rehabilitation activity like physical training or other kind of cognitive training kind of program is somewhat not entertaining for the people who needs to apply those kind of activities. But using the virtual reality and also combination with the gamification technique, those kind of training activity will become some kind of fun or entertaining. And through the experience of those enjoyment activity in nursing house as a new kind of recreation program, it will become maybe kind of in a way that participants who don't think such kind of activities are for the training, but for the fun for themselves, maybe leads to the improvement of the motor function and also the cognitive function. So I'm using such kind of technique to improve the well-being in daily life for the senior citizens.
Thank you very much. And we have an online participant panelist. So, QC, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to this important seminar. So my name is Kirsi Kotilainen, and I'm currently heading the customer relationships and partnerships at the VTT Technical Research Center of Finland in the area of smart energy and built environment. So we focus on multiple types of topics related to the smart cities, smart buildings, smart energy systems, digitalization of all kinds of things, services, infrastructure, etc., etc. I have like science and business background. From my previous life, I've been working in international business development and sort of innovation commercialization, and also focusing on the consumer perspective in many changes in the environment. And VTT, if you don't know the organization so well, is the National Research Institute of Finland. So we are owned by the state of Finland, but organized as a limited company. And we are one of the biggest research institutes in Europe. So we have very broad research portfolio at VTT. And also that means that we are researching many aspects of also the smart cities, but also the aspects that are really relevant for the aging society. For instance, we do research on health data, and we have been investigating in different ways to improve, for instance, the home care through chat bots and robotics, etc. So I think it's very relevant discussion for us at VTT as well. And so happy to be part of this seminar. And in terms of the challenges, obviously in Finland the population is aging fast. So this is kind of one big challenge for us as a country. So we really need to kind of think and develop solutions for the aging population. So every fifth Finn is at the moment 65 years old. And so that is even increasing, that in 2050 we estimate that every third Finn will be over 65 years old. So this is a really big challenge for us as a society. Of course, it's also an opportunity that I think we will be discussing later on. But basically, there's all kinds of new demands for the services for the elderly people. Many of them are still living at home. So that kind of services that can be enabled remotely, for instance, based on digitalization, robotics, etc., artificial intelligence are extremely interesting and important at the moment. At the same time, also in Finland, the amount of children born is decreasing rapidly. So there's of course different kinds of pressure then that these phenomena put on, for instance, on the business life, how to get enough employees in the future, how to change the work, what kind of things have to happen so that we can still have a very healthy society. Also aging and also the urbanization, that is a big trend also in Finland, is of course putting pressure on the safety environment. So that is another kind of thing that it's like challenging the whole service system that we have, especially in sparsely populated areas. And Finland's population density is the smallest in EU. So this is also like a big challenge for us, at the same time as we are aging faster than most countries in EU. So so there are a lot of challenges, but also happy to discuss the opportunities together today. Thank you.
So thank you very much. So now that we know that there are several, like hundreds of issues to talk about, but let's start from the broader perspective on the aging issue, and about the critical key, focusing on another critical keyword about the smart city. So I recognize that the Nordic region is taking pioneering role in smart city initiatives. So first, I think that Kirsi is very familiar with this and the concept of the smart city. So could you introduce a bit about the concept of the smart city?
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to talk about this Nordic smart city concept. Of course, there's no such like a clear thing as Nordic smart city concept. There are different views different aspects, but maybe I think you already highlighted pretty well in your introduction some of the aspects. Maybe I'll open up some of them a little bit more. So for instance, human centricity is something that is quite typical for the Nordic and Finnish smart cities. And I think that the whole idea of smart cities is that it should like really provide good living environment for the people, for the citizens that live in the city. So it's not about the technology, it's not about that kind of a thing so much, but it should really, like, with the help of technology, etc., provide a good living environment. So this is something that in Finland we have taken very seriously, and many cities are actually involving, for instance, the citizens in their planning processes, for instance, the urban planning processes, and they are also like co-creating different types of services. So in Finland, we already have a lot of like digital services for people, and also I think around in the Nordics in general. So basically, there's they are really in use. So we, for instance, have like central healthcare records, digital records for people's healthcare information and things like that, and also like different types of city services are being developed for people to utilize, and of course we are using like artificial intelligence, etc., as basis for this, and so that the services are as good as possible and usable as possible. But so basically there's also like another aspect of this digital services is there's quite high trust in sort of authorities in Nordics in general and Finland in particular. So basically, I think this is one enabler that people are trusting, that they, if they give their data to the authorities, it is safe. So I think that's one like a little bit like unique feature of the Nordics, perhaps compared to, for instance, to Japan. And then another big theme, of course, in the Nordics is the sustainability. So we have very quite aggressive carbon neutrality targets in the Nordics, and in the EU in general. So, for instance, Finland needs to be carbon neutral by 2035, and some of the cities have also like set even more aggressive targets. So many cities say that we will be carbon neutral by 2030. So this, of course, means that also the smart cities need to be carbon neutral, and we need to really kind of think that how to reduce the emissions. So I think all the cities, most of the cities have like these roadmaps on reducing the carbon emissions, and also that it's not only the kind of the emissions, but it's also like how do you, for instance, build the cities. So the sustainable construction is quite a big topic. So obviously there are many things about the construction over the whole value chain, but for instance, some examples from the technology point of view is that there are like initiatives to, for instance, develop carbon neutral concrete. Actually, one of the VTT spin-offs is focusing on this. And also there's like this, maybe this philosophy in the Nordics that maybe renovation over demolition. So basically we also do kind of renovate a lot of like the old infrastructure so that they meet the needs of the smart city of today and can be digitalized and so forth. And of course, then one maybe third aspect is this like infrastructure, that it's very important that the cities and the buildings are safe and healthy. So for instance, like clean air in the building is very important. So we have very good like ventilation systems. Another thing is this resiliency that is related to safety, because we have quite harsh conditions. In the winter, for instance, we have cold weather. So the buildings need to be able to kind of, even in the case of like power outage, the building needs to be kind of comfortable for the people living in it. And this is, of course, also very relevant for the aging society topic, that you can remain home even something happens outside. So for instance, energy efficiency is something that is at a quite high level in the Nordics. And of course, the sustainable energy system. So that is, of course, related to also the smart city, so that there's clean air also outside the building, and also that the energy system is flexible, and if something happens there are a lot of backups and also maybe local energy production, etc. So these are just some things that I wanted to highlight about the Nordic thinking of smart cities.
Thank you very much. And do you want to add something, like Sven?
Yeah, I'm not, an expert on smart cities in Norway, but one reflection, having lived and worked here in Japan for almost 20 years, is that the size of the Nordic is like a laboratory. So it's like the living lab you have here, so it's a beautiful place to test out things. So I think that's why there is so much to gain by collaboration, let's say, for example, between Japan and the Nordics, because Norway and Scandinavia, Nordics have such many, the size of the country, and you can easily try out things. And vice versa, Japan have all the data, so there's so much to test out also here in Japan. And we often talk about Japan as one country, but a lot of things are happening across Japan in various regions. So it's not only one solution to be found, but I think there is a lot of things, and that's happening in Japan. But you can probably elaborate more about that.
Yeah, I also think that the living lab concept is a very important part to install the smart city and realize in the actual society. I think that for the aging society issue, smart applications like gathering the healthcare data and provide some kind of healthcare activity to the people living in the environment, and also preparing the smart transportation for elderly care, and also provide the engagement between local society and the senior citizen who retired from the working age. And also that make use of the network can be good application to keep the communication between remotely living family or friends, and that kind of technique to support to maintain the relationship between society and also the family members or friends. That would be key application in the smart city, I think.
So there's so many aspects from the view of the smart city. So I think let's deepen the discussion by focusing on several aspects of the smart city. So I think the life expectancy has been increasing, but from the perspective of improving the well-being of older individuals, I think it is crucial to extend the healthy life expectancy. And I think you are the expert of doing that kind of thing. So I will start the question for what approaches are there to extend healthy life expectancy, and what is the current state of the technology? So would you introduce that?
Yes, I think as we started off, Japan has achieved a lot, when it comes to life expectancy, and I think many reasons for that. But one is easy access to high quality healthcare. It's very easy to get good quality care in hospitals and clinics here in Japan, and you have all necessary medication available and so on. So when you talked about capacity and access as two drivers, Japan, have succeeded. However, now there are limitations to that, right? So there are lack of healthcare professionals, and there are also lack of healthcare, caregivers, for people living at home. So I think what needs to happen is, think differently. So we need a model change. So from the time when you were dependent so much on, let's say, the hospitals and clinics, and also, I should add, family and relatives. I just saw some data today. I visited Tokyo Institute of Gerontology and had some very interesting discussion with them. And I saw data that, households in Japan with, two generations living together 25 years ago, it was about 50% of the household, and now it's less than 20. And you have more than doubled elderly people living alone or with their spouse and so on. So the next of kin care, let's say, ability, capacity has also changed a lot. So these are the surrounding factors changing, meaning that we need to enable. We need to make sure that when I get older, I need to be able to take better care of myself. And that can be done by various kind of education, advice, by having, let's say, devices and so on. And that's where I think right now I'm very thrilled with the opportunities we have. One thing is virtual technology and so on, but our ability with artificial intelligence to digest data and give advice and so on. So imagine that you could collect data from across the daily life of elderly in Japan, and you could somehow find out when people are doing something right and when people are doing not something right, and you could try to feedback that to everyone. Then you could maybe nudge people to take better care of themselves. There are so many ethical considerations to this, but I think with what we have seen recently with the AI and the power, as assisting us, it's really thought-provoking, and that's maybe something that I'm sure it will happen, but something we can maybe discuss further.
Is it like about the professional education is one thing, but you're talking about more of personal?
Both actually, because I think the reason why I went to Tokyo Institute of Gerontology today is that we have a couple of visitors from Norway. So Norway and Japan, and it goes across all the Nordics, the home care nurses and helpers, they are struggling, because it's a clear government policy that elderly people should be staying at home. So the elderly people they met at home care 10 years ago and they meet today have totally changed. At the same time, when you work in a hospital, you have your peers around you. You can easily go and get advice if you need. But when you go alone to an elderly person's home, you are only by yourself. So that's why the training and the competence development for home nurses needs to change dramatically. And that's where Norway has had a very functioning program recently, and that's now being discussed and tested also here in Japan. So that's one example how the professional need to change. But today I learned that there is another element before you get the professionals, and that's your next of kin, your family, how they can be better trained. And it's not very advanced training. It's not like they're supposed to do any advanced care or something like that, but it's just to think about what will happen with my mom and dad 5 years later. What does it actually mean to be old? And what kind of signs should I look for to actually call the doctor or something like that? It's really just to think a little bit about it. And these are difficult conversations to have. Of course it is, because we don't really want to think about the end result of getting old. So and that's another topic, end of life care. We can maybe come into as well.
Yeah. So I think the information about how to care and what's going to happen in the future. So if we can get that kind of information easy in our daily lives, I think the more that we can prepare and think of it. And I think Hiyama Sensei is doing the VR training thing. So do you have any opinion to that?
One good thing for using virtual reality is that virtual reality is kind of whole body interaction. So we can gather various type of information from our body because you wear the goggle. So we can gather data about eye tracking and also heart rate, and also the moving range of the joints in whole body. So through the entertaining experiment, we can do some kind of assessment of the elderly participants' mental level, cognitive level, and also the physical level. So according to those data, we can adjust the game experience, which can be good training for them and also the good gaming experience for them. So that kind of data gathering and experiencing kind of feedback mechanism is the key system to utilize the AI, ability of AI to improve the people's quality of life in elderly age.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that like using the VR is like kind of like, yeah, as you said, it's fun. And so it's, and the future is not, our future is not dark. I mean, like, yeah. And I think it's also important to like make the more like bright future and share the knowledge. So Kini, do you want to say something about this topic?
Yeah, I just wanted to reflect a little bit on this like home care technologies. And I think in Finland, we already have in use many ways to kind of remotely help the elderly people who are living at home. Because in Finland, if I remember correctly, about 80% of over 85-year-old people still live at home. So it's very big trend that we try to support the people to stay at home as long as possible. So obviously you need this kind of remote care. And there are like many like very practical examples that is very everyday life in Finland that elderly people have, like for instance iPad or some kind of a tablet that where the nurse calls, like let's say 3 times a day to check how they are. And then obviously they're also like under sort of demonstration, and also kind of, I think almost like in use, this kind of, for instance, bots that are trained to kind of communicate with the elderly people based on AI. So I think these solutions are already kind of in use in some of the places in the world. So it'd be very interesting to see how collaboration between, for instance, Nordics and Japan could develop in this area.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I add something on the use of VR? I think it's many opportunities. What happened in Japan during COVID was very important and fundamental, because students, again I'm back to the educational aspect, students, they couldn't go to school. So how do you then make sure they get a feel of the clinical practice, and especially with home care, not many students have the opportunity to spend long time clinical practice at home care. So you can, through VR solutions, 360-degree filming and so on, you can bring the elderly home into the classroom, and then you give the students a real feel for what such kind of care situation is like. So I think this kind of technology gives a higher level of reality, and it makes the students much more confident. Normally, they would require maybe multiple years of experience working in the field that they can gain quicker with the use of VR technology.
Yeah, and also I would like to add that even if senior people's physical condition get lower and they cannot go outside freely, but they can still have a communication with outer society through the metaverse. So the VR is a kind of another way to keep the communication and also the community activity for the elderly who are living in the nursing home.
Yeah.
And may I also add one more thing about this like future, so that obviously like big topics today is like metaverse, for instance, where we combine a lot of these things like AR, VR, robotics, all kinds of like maybe gamifications, etc. So I think that is something that there's also like in the Nordics, that there are like a lot of targets to start kind of creating already like some kind of solutions for this, and maybe in the future it is really like different for the elderly people to live at home, and it can feel more natural to communicate with the outside world as well.
Yeah, and I think that VR and metaverse thing, there's so much possibility to increase our like daily lives, which is who is in the distance, living distance and alone, but at the same time, I think the elderly is having a hard time using the digital devices. But do you have some kind of like I think Hiyama Sensei wants to talk about.
Yes, so I'm also developing the research environment in the actual city, like living lab. So that is important way to inform this kind of new technology is already available for the elderly people. So we held workshops at the university and invite local citizens to experience and also understand that how these technologies can change their daily lives. So that kind of communication with the research field and also the local people is very important to know what kind of technology can be used and also change their daily lives.
Yeah, and I think that we've talked about the digital thing and also the promotion of the physical well-being, but like at the same time, the isolated people to enhance the well-being, that's another topic that we have talked. And what do you think that, what approaches exist to like create those kinds of like liability of the elderly? Do you have anything else you want to say? One more time, sorry. Like to improve the
mental, yeah. I think like touch upon, you know, again, as things are changing, you know, and yeah, one step back, we talk about having a happy life, you know, and we can always, what is happiness? And that's probably changing, you know, with generations as well. But one thing is for sure is that we as human beings are, you know, we are social, you know, instincts. We like to communicate one way or another. And I think what is a big challenge very often raised in Norway is people feeling lonely, being by themselves, you know. And also that will be a huge challenge in Japan when you have more and more single people getting older. So how will they be able to, let's say, maintain happiness and social engagement? And of course, when you are physically fit to go out and do activities, and if you have the, let's say, economy and financial resources to do hobbies and so on, that's probably taken care of. But when you come to another state, that's where, you know, I think metaverse or let's say technology when you can work in a distance can be very, very interesting. It was actually recently on Norwegian news from Japan. I think it was in Kyoto, where a coffee shop have employed people with disabilities. They were working from their homes. So, and in the coffee shop, you know, many more restaurants in Japan, they have robots serving you. This coffee shop had robots, but with human behind let's say, the robot face. And that was, you know, fully capable, let's say mentally, but yet disabled people working from home. So they got to come out of their bedridden situation to work in a coffee shop, interact with guests and with each other. And I thought that's just very powerful example of social entrepreneurship by this coffee shop owner, leading technology that I think only Japan can bring, and someone putting into you know, a sustainable situation where you can actually run a coffee shop with this one. So I thought that was one example, and that could be probably done similarly for elderly people and so on.
So beyond healthy life expectancy, our research group is now creating the new keyword called engagement life expectancy. So relationship between society and other among community that will be lead to the happiness in the retired life. So we are now trying to measure the engagement after the elderly, after the retirement. So one our approach, which is to support the and also promote the social participation after the retirement in Japanese society, and we are now developing the ICT platform called Jiber, which sounds similar to Uber, but it's a kind of sharing economy platform, but not the driving sharing, ride share. It's about the skill sharing platform. So Japanese elderly people are now achieving almost 90 years of life. And also, many of them retires at the age of 60 to 65. So we have about 30 years of the life after retirement. And many of them are almost 90% very active, and still they want to do something in their living fields. So we are now applying the GBIRD to gather the local activities like lifelong learning and also volunteering and working for the local company or local government. So gathering many kinds of local activity and provide opportunity to match through the internet and have the and find the local community they can be fit in. So that is I think one of the application which leads to create the smart city for the age society.
So if we can increase the motivation and include the elderly people into the society, and then their motivation to live and like happy life.
So if we can keep the engagement, that will be that leads to the more healthier life.
May I also add something, because we have mentioned the word happy many times here. So basically, as you may know, that Finland is kind of considered to be like a happy country. So we have again like been selected like a happiest country in the world for the 6th time in a row. So I think I just want to highlight some of the kind of measures that have been used in this case as for happiness. So of course income and health are important variables there. And also like social support, extremely important. So one of the measures that has been used. But also like having a sense of freedom to make life decisions, and generosity and also the absence of corruption have been playing quite a big role, and also of course healthy life expectancy. So these are kind of the measures of happiness. But also you mentioned really great things about like involving, activating people through technologies and other activities, and I think that's really important. And also like it is an opportunity for businesses, because we discussed earlier about home care and people who really need support. They may have some health problems, but also there's like more and more people who are really like healthy, getting older, but are really leading very active lives. And I think that's a big business opportunity. Like this silver economy is of course like recognized as one of the growth opportunities in many services and even product sector. So the future elderly people, they will be like actively buying services and products as well. So I think that's like a positive side, that there are like also like a lot of opportunities due to the aging population.
Yeah, Thank you. And let me like shift a little bit of focus for a different generation. I think like, of course, like improving their happiness and like living longer. I think that's that's a great thing. But at the same time, from the standpoint of the mitigating aging, I think it is essential to increase the birth rate. So to achieve this, a shift in the mindset of the younger generation will also be maybe necessary. So can I ask about like how can the younger generation coexist with the elderly in the same society for mutual benefit, and what approaches can be employed to increase the birth rates among the younger generation? So anyone?
It's a big question. Right now, you know, maybe the younger generation feel the pressure that we are forced to coexist with an increasing elderly population, right? So because everything is about, and that is natural, you know, because it's the majority of the voters, you know, most of the funding goes there, and also you need to pay more tax because this needs to be financed and so on. So it's natural that this can be a bit, let's say, gloomy in the sense that, you know, how will this continue? So I think finding a way to balance this, and this is probably very important for the politicians, that, you know, there will probably be no happy continuous aging society unless you are actually able to have let's say a more balanced society for the younger generation. So it's probably out of the topic today, but looking on how countries would, you know, tax and incentivize and so on, I think is part of the answer here. Because at least speaking for myself, you know, I decided to have 2 kids. It comes with, you know, how certain I feel about, you know, my life and my future and so on. So I think it's about, you know, making sure that the younger generation feel, you know, secure, you know, and feel that this is something they would like to do, you know, for the society and from themselves. And I think there is multiple things that can be done, you know, between the younger generation and also the elderly generation. You know, if we can, you know, somehow take down some of these, let's say, barriers that maybe, you know, exist.
Yes.
Especially in Japan, I think we need first a female prime minister in order to increase the birth rate, and also in every field we also need a female leader to change the way of thinking, to design the society.
Yeah, maybe also like very good points, and I think one big issue, of course, for the young people is that they are worried about the world, and they are worried about, for instance, climate change. And so I think we need to work on these big challenges as well, and try to improve the outlook of the world as such, and also like show some like improvements in these things. So I think that's like for our children, I think we need to kind of try to convince them that, yeah, this is like going into the right direction. That's just one point.
Yeah, if I can add something, because we may add, okay, what can smart technology, how can it be part of the solution? And I think what you mentioned about having a higher level of, let's say, engagement, so and those happiness, you know, topics from Finland. I think if we somehow, you know, can showcase to the younger generation that the elderly can maybe take a little bit more care of themselves. We can use technology differently. You know, all the burden is not necessarily on them. You know, in a different way, they can have a happier life when they become older. Then they may, let's say, think differently about these things. So I think the way we implement and adopt technology will, over time, influence the decisions by the younger generation.
I also need to fill the communication gap between generations. So younger people don't know what kind of issues elderly people are suffering, and also the elderly people don't know about new technology and also the issues which younger generation children and also their parents are now facing. So I think that Living Lab is one good method to exchange those issues between generations and have a discussion and share the issues and make and find a way to how to approach those issues in their local society. That kind of role is maybe required in the Living Lab, and Living Lab can be the a trigger to change the society into the smart society.
Oh yes, I agree. And I think the thing that you said, like there's a barrier between the elderly generation and the young generation, and if we have to improve the interaction, enhance more interaction between those generations. So I think co-design and co-creating the new world between the multi-generational approach, I think that's very important. And at the same time, I think the Living Lab and the smart city, it is like based on the data. So I think accumulating those kind of activity datas in those like interaction data and other datas, I think that kind of the utilization of data is crucial to improve enhance those like interactions. So another question I want to ask is then from your perspective, what does the utilization of data bring to lives of the elderly? So would you talk about it, please?
I think we already touched up on it. I think for everyone to, let's say, be able to, let's say, take better care of themselves if they can use the data from others, you know. It's like, you know what you know. So if we can increase that pool, I think that's very important.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the trust for the data, like the thing that Kis first said, I think that improving the trust for like those like giving the data, I think that's another issue. So do you have some kind of comment for that?
One thing is that senior people still believe in the local government. So local government can gather the healthcare data, and also they can also gather some kind of social activity data, and then make some feedback which enriches the well-being for each citizens. So I think that local government needs to establish the data policy to make use of the data to provide various type of applications which can enhance the service for the daily living. So I think it is not only the data scientists can approach to change the societies, but also the social scientists can be the key person which can change the policy to make use of the data.
Yeah,
Can
and
I
think
comment there? Yeah, thank you. So because just some examples from Finland, so I think many municipalities have been taking like a driver's seat in this kind of digital services. And as I mentioned earlier, that in like in general, there's quite high trust in data, and that maybe is due that Finnish people have quite high trust in authorities in general, but basically there's also like a very good legal framework that protects the privacy of data. So in Europe, this GDPR laws are there. And then another aspect is that obviously like we can, it should be also like shown to people how their data is used. So very transparently tell, like if you collect some data, that how is it used and what is the benefit for you, i.e. maybe the service or whatever. So that basically people can really like see that where does the data go and how is it used. And then of course, as a last mechanism, it's also good to show and tell people that, for instance, about the cybersecurity, that this type of risk mitigation and data leaks have been like minimized, and so very much like the communication in all levels, that what is the benefit, how is it used, where does it go, can you get it back, can you delete it, and what happens if something goes wrong, so how have we ensured that there's no harm done. So I think these aspects have been very much like been on the table in Finland, and I think that used every day in kind of designing this type of services, and I think that improves the trust in all kind of age groups.
Yes, and I very much agree. And to build trust, I think, like mentioned, transparency is very important. And very often, when, let's say, there is a mishap and data are going in the wrong way, that gets a lot of attention. So we should also be transparency with all the good things coming out of sharing data, because this is a balance. So I think this is a job that everyone needs to, let's say, we all need to be doing when we drive these kind of changes. That's to tell, both stories. Unfortunately, it's nature of news is always something negative, right? But there is a positive thing also happening, and I think that needs to be communicated also to in a transparent way for everyone to over time gain trust.
Yeah, sharing the positive aspects of the data is, I think it's really important. And at the same time, like we have to I think the place where we can share those communications and share the benefit of data, I think we need some kind of engagement from the citizens. And as you said, and the Living Lab is one of the places that the people can engage and use the data, utilize the data, and and think of what we can do for the society. So, but I think it's kind of difficult in Japan to we don't have so much culture to engage in thinking of the society from the residents. So do you have any suggestions for how to enhance the engagement of the citizens?
Yeah, and use digital also innovative technology more. Right. I've been thinking about that, and I think I don't think the elderly themselves is the biggest problem. I think it's the system, because if you look at all the systems, around an elderly person or a young person for that matter, that's designed, long time before, virtual technology and smart technology and so on. And we see it, my field, education. My challenge is that when we come with some new learning technology to the universities here in Japan, the head of faculty, they have a design that is maybe 20, 30, 40 years old. So the whole educational design needs to be changed in order to make best use of the technology. Okay, so then you need to talk to the Ministry of Education, and then, it's a long journey. So it's not the teacher, it's not the students, it's not the technology, but it's the system that is kind of a big barrier to have more adoption. So I think this is where, a lot of quick fixes can be for everyone representing parts of, let's say, the system. to rethink how can they change the way they do things to accommodate, try out, make use of all the benefits of various technologies and so on. And again, back to the Nordics, I think we have a benefit because it's smaller societies. It's maybe easier to try things out compared to maybe Japan, where you have many stakeholders you maybe need to consult with before you can move ahead.
So I think in the Nordic country, like small test and like improvement is and with the citizens and improving the society. I think that's the culture and like and everything. Everyone is doing that. And so Kelsey, do you have some opinions to like how to enhance those kinds of culture?
Yeah, so I think in Finland, many municipalities and cities have taken a lot of initiative in this co-creation. Maybe as an example, the city of Espoo, that is this in the metropolitan area of Finland, I think second biggest city in Finland. So they are really advocating the citizen participation in city development. So basically they want to really encourage co-creating with people. Of course, they have a lot of living labs in Espoo as well. And they have this concept as like a city as a service. So they are really focusing on that kind of service creation for the citizens. So basically, there are like many ways they have very open sort of communication about this, that how to participate. They have their websites. The city of Espoo has websites, and they're like the citizens can go and see how can I participate, and they launch initiatives there, etc. So for instance, they are encouraging people to give feedback on different things. And also there's like this urban planning is something that they are actively asking people's opinions. And for instance, they can there's been like a lot of citizen surveys on like what are like they can be marking on the map of Espoo that what are the most important locations for me, and then they take that into account in the urban planning processes. And also citizens can make launch initiatives, so they can through the website they can propose ideas for the city. They can organize events. They can organize some voluntary actions, and they can also, in some cases, participate in the city groups. And also, of course, there are like then these services like that they can book spaces and so forth. So I think that they are like it's quite concrete, and also like city of Tampere is very much like been focusing on this citizen activation especially around the data services. They have this program called Data-Driven City for Citizens, and it's very much like how to use AI to provide better services for the citizens. And now this city of Tampere is also very much like trying to see how this future metaverse could enhance the citizens and asking for feedback, etc. So I think there are a lot of like concrete examples that how citizens can participate in Finland.
So Hiyama says, do you want to add something like to? I think you're like doing very much effort on like introducing technology to elderly, and like how do you think?
I think that university is the place which diverse kind of people gathered, and now what I'm trying is that in the undergraduate course, I'm also inviting the different kind of branches in the local government, and also that in Knuuttila city, which Hitotsubashi University is located, and also the service providers like elderly care or children care. There are lots of communities which are working in such field, and have a discussion with our students and exchange the issues that the people are facing in the actual society, and also share the idea which can be solve those issues. And through those activities, we can connect the idea between other community in the local area, and also the different idea from the different generations. So I think that university is a kind of method which already installed in the actual environment. So that can be a kind of hub, and I think that living lab can be installed in the university.
Thank you very much. And before, I think it's the time is passing, and before we go to a Q&A session, throughout our discussion about the aging society from various aspects of smart cities, and I'd like to hear each of your thoughts on what you have found to be crucial or important in these discussion, and what key takeaways of learning points have emerged. So, yes, please.
Yes, I think already mentioned, it's not about the technology. It's not about the data. In Laerdal, whenever we develop something, a new product or solution, we always think about what's the impact. And for us, it's, does it help save lives? Can we help train nurses, doctors better so they can, have more confidence? That's when you see the real impact, if that's actually happening. And I think we should see the same with all kinds of smart technology. We should not be afraid of testing it out and the data, but we should carefully look for the impact. And the impact we are looking for is, happier, longer life, and hopefully at less cost for society. I think that's also crucial. So there are a few, let's say, KPIs, if we take a term from the business sector, we could look for. And then I'd like to mention one more in order to make this happen, and that's leadership. Because I like the idea about living labs and so on, because in order to scale, we need leadership by many, by institutions and by politicians and by many stakeholders to actually try and test things, because it's only by piloting and trying things we will learn, and so on. So we need leadership in order to move this forward by multiple stakeholders.
I think one important thing is that how we imagine to live the centenarian life. So we cannot design the society beyond our imagination. So we need to extend our imagination, and also we need to think about how we want to live the centenarian life as our own life.
Thank you. And Kelsey, please.
Yes, I think very, very interesting discussion, and it's really great to notice we have very similar sort of thoughts in Japan and in the Nordics. And I think that maybe one thing that I feel that is important, as you mentioned, that technology is an enabler. It can do great things, but we should I agree that we should treat it as an enabler for something that can help people live better lives, longer at home, happy, etc. So I think that's one thing. But obviously, I also think that this kind of collaboration, not only citizens and governments or municipalities, but also universities, technology companies, and also research institutes like VTT. I think if we collaborate together to create better future services, so I think that's the best way forward, so that we can learn from each other and we can complement each other's strengths. So I think that is something also quite a Nordic way of creating innovations. And also this piloting, I also agree that it's very very good. And in the Nordics, there's like really good sort of environment for doing pilots. So also maybe invitation for some Japanese companies to consider that if you are interested in piloting some of these kind of human-centric services or whatever. So I think you can consider maybe some of the Nordic countries as like a living lab or test platform for your ideas.
Thank you very much. So I want to move on to the Q&A session from now. So from the floor, is there anyone who wants to? And I think the mic will go.
Okay, so thank you for today's great talk. So I could enjoy. So Tokyo Tech plan to now integrate with the other universities, Tokyo Medical and Dental Universities, to collaborate with each other in the field of the medicine and engineering. And so through this integration, we believe that we can collaborate, contribute to the smart city in aging by using science and technology to realize a world where people can feel happiness. So, but I wonder how to realize such a world through science and technologies. So I myself am a life scientist. So I think we can extend lifespan more and more. But I guess that to realize a world where people can feel happiness, it's not necessarily the same as expanding lifespan biologically. So today's topics. And so I'm sorry to repeat. So how do today's panelists think technologies can help realize such a world? So in the futures, in the near futures, may I have your considerations or opinions, please?
So someone.
I think that technology can also help the health condition. So it can also extend the biologically the life expectancy. And also the technology can be a media between the people to people. It's a kind of supporting and enhancing the communication for the people, and that can lead to the improvement of the well-being and also the happiness in the longevity life. So the technology such as based on the information technology can approach both kind of biological and also the mental way of improving the quality of life.
QC, do you want to say something about this question?
Yes, of course. There's like many sort of, as you mentioned, many aspects of the happiness. So it depends what we are kind of considering. But of course, like this kind of, for instance, the social well-being. There are like a lot of ways with technology to enhance communication between people, like the elderly people or the young people or people and the healthcare facilities, etc. And obviously, of course, there's like, for instance, artificial intelligence and machine learning are something that can enable a lot of like really great services in the near future. So I think that it can have a very big impact on the social well-being, but also like the physical well-being in case of like healthcare issues at home, for instance. So I think there are like so many great examples already existing of the services and products and monitoring systems and data processing that are already happening. So I think that's very promising area. So and also in many other areas, of course, healthy life expectancy, as we discussed, can be like even better if we enable the right technologies, if we have like services that can ensure help whenever it's needed, etc. So.
If I can add on, I think I fully agree, and I like the word interprofessionality, And you mentioned you will have 2 academic institutions coming together. What an opportunity. So what you have to avoid is just moving in together and doing exactly the same thing. So imagine that you establish this from the beginning, and you could take the technology, the AI competence into healthcare and vice versa, and really have a true interprofessional education, create new programs, etc., etc. Then you have, let's say, you can imagine the future, and this educational institution can be one of the forerunners to actually combine that. Because one thing that is one of Japan's challenges is that there's too many silos, and so, and especially also within the academic field, you have excellence within your area, but if you can cross that, that's part of the future. So this is very good news. Good luck.
Thank you. So any other questions from the floor?
Thank you very much for your good and interesting panel discussion. I'm Taro Sugihara, also working at the Tokyo Tech, and also specialized in the assistive technology for dementia care for a long time. From my perspective, I'm quite curious about how to manage the technological issues, but today it's not so seriously talked about, in my understanding. For example, there's several topics strongly focused on the quite futuristic dreaming situation, but in my understanding, who manage the data itself? For example, the GDPR now try to stop to get the data for making personal context, right? But for the care context, personalized is a matter to improve the quality of care. And also the education is also a problem. Even though the education is one of the good things to improve the society, but it needs so much time. And also some of the occupation is not so deserved to be paid by, right? And the caregiving, professional caregiver is not so high wage occupation, quite unfortunately, in my understanding. Probably now the many countries will suffer from the same issue from now on, I guess. So in such case, the technology, how can help such kinds of issue? Even though the quite effective technology can be developed from now on, but there is no effective operation in the field, in my understanding. How do you think about such kinds of issues to solve?
So anyone who wants to answer the question?
Yeah, maybe I can start. I think it's a complex topic. I think a couple of things that comes to mind when I hear your question and you're talking is, one is let's say the system, as I mentioned. So today there is one way of doing, let's say, care, and then let's say you come with new kind of technology and so on. How that needs to be added and something needs to be replaced, So then you need leadership by those who manage that kind of system to try out the new technology and so on. And I think that's what we often hear in Norway, is that there are a lot of health tech startups in Norway, but they don't get to test out the technology in the hospitals because the hospitals are maybe too conservative or they have too rigid systems or whatnot, So that could be one barrier. And you also started earlier, the data. Who owns the data? And I think, in my mind at least, that needs to be each one of us, and then we lend our data to someone to do something good for society or good for me, and that's where, strong regulations and transparency and so on becomes very, very important. But I think that's the only way it can work if that's something I can control, meaning that I can turn it off, I can turn it on, I can give more, I can give less, So and that's not done in a day, but you need legal framework, you need to build trust over time, and you need, companies with high ethical standards. That's also very important.
And also the literacy of the users themselves is needed. So, do you want to add something?
Maybe I can say about this. Just I'm really sorry I didn't get the whole question because there was a little bit, the line was not so great. But basically concerning this owning the data, I totally agree that there must be like a very, very clear rules and legislation on it. But basically in Finland, we, for instance, collect this healthcare data in central repository, and obviously then the first people, they have the right to give permit either for different kinds of professionals. Only professional like a doctor who's taking care of the patient have the authority to see the data, and even like the patient can still like restrict who can see, whether the doctors can see it or not, and they have like a choice to say that okay, this data item can be seen by a doctor that takes care of me and this not. So I think that's very important that the people feel that they are in control of their own data. And there's also like this for the healthcare data, it's extremely important for the research. So there's also like an authority in Finland that is then responsible for the sort of secondary use of anonymized healthcare data. So there's like they are kind of monitoring and giving permits for different kinds of for instance, businesses to develop services based on the data and do research. But yeah, so it's a very complex question, and there's of course no easy answer. But this legislation and rules are very, very important.
Thank you. And the time is running, and I forgot to ask about the very important last question. So for how we as individuals can act to support the sustainable development we wish to use. So we wish to see. So could you, all of you, please talk about the recommendation for the next step?
Be curious and try things out. That's what I try in life, and these things again, like using the AI and the ChatGPT. I think few of us knew very much about it until recently. And let's be curious about all these things and see how that can be put into use, and try to be role models, by ourselves and people around us, and vote for a female prime minister in Japan. I don't have voting rights, so I can say it.
Yeah, I also think that be curious is most important part. And also, I need to add, we need to know how to make people curious. So especially the older people, older adults, are quite have a tendency to lose the curiosity. So we need to make them reactivate to have the curiosity to the new technology and also the new way of thinking.
Thank you. QC, please.
Yeah, and I think that it's everything depends on the individual and their own needs and their sort of goals and their capabilities and resources to think sustainability and other like take in use new technologies. So I think it's like an individual. Every person should sort of like see what's beneficial for me, and if they think it's beneficial if they feel that it's good for them to use some services for the sake of the environment or the for society, that's great. But there should not be too much pressure. More like that we should like try to show the benefits of these new technologies and so in that. From the positive angle.
Thank you very much. So today we had the opportunity to explore what we can do in an aging society from various perspectives. And I believe that it is important to continue these kinds of discussion. And I hope today's conversation leads to the further discussions and insights and actions for each person. So as closing remarks, we have Henna Knuuttila from Minister Council Finnish.
Thank you very much for the excellent discussion. I followed with a great interest everything you said. And now I have the impossible task to kind of summarize. I'm not going to make a very long summary. But we learned today that aging is a global phenomenon. It is phenomenon that it is present already in the Nordic societies as well as in Japan. We discussed a lot about problems like healthcare, lack of healthcare professionals, about isolation, about mental health issues, but also despite that aging raises many important policy issues, it shouldn't be tackled only as an economic problem or otherwise problem. It also opens up new opportunities, like mentioned by Dr. Kotilainen. And we should also keep in mind that aging is a consequence of remarkable gains in life expectancy, like mentioned by Mr. Kristensen. We also talked about happiness. Happiness was mentioned many times, as well as trust. Professor Hiyama mentioned that information media technologies such as virtual reality, social media, they are kind of fusion of cyber world and real world, so human community and society, and they can reshape societies. Then we discussed about how to engage citizens more in a local level, and Ms. Kotilainen gave examples about this, about co-creation and co-planning, city as service. I also know I'm from Helsinki, the capital area, and in our area it was possible, for example, vote what are the most important places that should be renovated, or if there is a new playground or new winter swimming place to be built up, and this was decided by the people who were living in that area. So maybe there is kind of generational change going on. So active citizens, they become also very active elderly people later on. There was also many times mentioned this living lab. And piloting different solutions bravely, and this type of topics, two things came to my mind about this social innovations field. In Finland, there is a pilot project where students are living in the same building with elderly people, and that has been a very successful social project. So that is one example. I'm quite newcomer here in Japan, but I already noticed that also here in Japan you have great social innovations, especially for the elderly people, like the morning exercises, radio taisho. I also learned about the silver centers, since, like rightly mentioned by a few Japanese people live very long and they stay very active for a long time. So the silver centers provide them possibility to work, to do voluntary work. Yes, so and I think this is a great conclusion before thanking all the organizers to mention that it's not about technology, not about data, it's about impact, like mentioned by Mr. Kristensen, and that we need to extend our imagination to think how to make our world better. So thank you very much for Tokyo Tech for hosting us. Thank you for all the organizers, excellent moderators, as well as the Nordic Innovation House. Thank you so much. Arigatou gozaimasu.